Are we live? Are we live? All right. Hello, everybody. There's always a delay when I hit go live on Ecamm here, the little old school software I've been using for like a decade. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining me live again, Wednesday live stream. Today I want to kind of wrap up Double for a little bit, be able to free up some future live streams for something else. Again, I try not to make the live streams about one thing. Maybe I do like these little mini series for a couple streams in a row, but I think we've kind of reached kind of that tipping point for Double where it's like, let's not talk about it every time, right? So today, let's wrap up with a couple things. One, let's go back and revisit kind of that example test, because as we saw in the last stream, as I was using and demoing Double, two things, one in relation to Mockery, but first, I noticed a few rough edges. There were a few things where I was like, wait a second, why did it do that? So I think I'd like to revisit that, show you what I've done kind of through the example again. But also I think someone else on the stream last week had pointed out, like, hey, what does this same test look like in Mockery? If I mock things up with Mockery instead of Double, what would it look like? A comparison, side-by-side comparison. And absolutely, it makes total sense, so let's do that too. Before we jump into that, though, let me preface or just kind of disclaim that it's never my point with Double. In promoting Double, I don't want to like poop on Mockery. Like, that is not my intention, right? I think it's unrealistic to not compare, but I've kind of like, I don't want to be in this place where like I'm dancing around it in like an overly corrective way. But again, I also don't want to like blatantly be like, Mockery sucks, like use Double. Like, that's not my style. That's not kind of what I want to do. So I've been a little shy to kind of demo Double in a lens of like, well, here's how it breaks in Mockery. Again, I think the reality is it's kind of unavoidable, because the whole reason I built Double was because I've had these like long-lived gripes with Mockery, and I'm not the only one, okay? Maybe there's some staunch PHP developers that don't want to admit it. And in fairness, again, Mockery is kind of all we got. It's the best we've got right up until now. It's the best we've had. And so to that point, like, I think we've all just kind of lived with it. But if you ask around, okay, if you ask people that have actually used Mockery, they've either run into the same gripes and, again, just lived with it politely, or they'll flat out tell you, yeah, I don't really like Mockery, And I think things like Laravel and some other frameworks kind of mask Mockery from us, like the facades in Laravel have their own kind of API to fake. But underneath, they're still using Mockery. I hope someday to maybe be able to change that. But again, the point here is that it was time for Mockery to have some changes. I've tried to do that with PRs. If you watch these live streams, I've PR'd things to Mockery before. I've attempted to correct some of these paper cuts. It just became, especially with AI, easier for me to build a ground-up mocking library that didn't have any of the gotchas. I mean, for me to fix the several gotchas or gripes that I have, or paper cuts, whatever you want to call it, for me to fix all of those in Mockery, I mean, would have taken dozens of PRs and almost a rewrite anyways. And again, Mockery, as a decade-long testing library, it's got some drag to it, right? It's got some drag. It's got to support old PHP versions for them to be able to be used by all the things it's used in today. It just has that drag. So they're not able to jump ahead like I could with Double with a brand new library and say 8.4 and above. They're not able to do things like that. So again, as crazy as it sounds, it was easier for me to just completely build from the ground up a new, PHP modern mocking library. And that is what we're looking at on screen here. That's Double. So the whole point there is that because it came from Mockery, it stands on its shoulders, if you will. Again, even though it was a complete rewrite, I wouldn't have been able to write it had I not used Mockery for a decade. So all this is to say, it's unrealistic for me not to compare slightly. I just want to do so in like a classy way, right? I'm trying to do so in a tactful way, not like a look how bad Mockery is. That's not necessarily my intention ever. So with all that huge disclaimer, let's go take a look. All right, let's get some crap out of my way here. Okay, so like I said, I made some changes off stream based on some small little things I saw in Double last week when we were demoing. I don't think there was anything wrong or broken per se, but again, some more polish that could be given. So as I compare Mockery and Double here, I'm going to also mention some of the things I changed. So we'll note here that, again, we're still in the 0. release, but we jumped from 0.5 to 0.6. All right. Well, we need PHP Storm, don't we? Let's bring up PHP Storm. Anyway. Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Thanks for joining live. Samuel, how's it going? Yeah, shout out to Lauren, I think. Lauren is how you say it. It's Laurent, but I think it's French, so, you know, you drop the last few characters. So I'm pretty sure it's just their spelling of Lauren. But anyway, they were on the stream last week. They're the ones who kind of mentioned, hey, what does it look like in Mockery? So shout out to them. They also reached out to me on Twitter with some ideas for Double. So double shout out. Yeah, I'm always looking for feedback. So, you know, hit me in the chat here, DM me afterward, email me, whatever you want to do. All right, let's get back into this Double example. And again, for my own comparison, as I was cleaning up some of these paper cuts, I made a Mockery version, as we can already see side by side, and kind of did this myself. So I think it's good to share. Let's kind of tighten up some of these sections here once everything loads, and just I'll run through both sides so we can kind of see how it all works here. So let PHP Storm load on my almost decade-old iMac, and we'll go from there. Almost there. You might be able to hear it taking off in the background. It's just churning. I really only use the iMac to do what I'm doing right now, to like stream, or like do a course. So because of that, I haven't had a need to replace it. Is it getting a little annoying every now and then? Yes, but it's okay. Okay, so let's just kind of collapse some stuff here. So basically, Mockery test on the right, Double test on the left. Equal comparisons both, even code comments are the same. We'll notice right away that the tests, the traits that automatically do the teardown and verification, they both exist, both have traits. One's verified doubles, the other is the Mockery PHP unit integration, the very technical name, already kind of foreshadowing what we're going to see here in the difference of them. So the arrange is exactly the same. If we go down into kind of the setup of the mock itself, we'll see Double for book repository class, and we'll see on the other side Mockery mock book repository class. So we're of course creating a mock for the same thing, but again, as that kind of technical wording, you have to know. With Mockery, you have to know what kind of test double, technically speaking, it needs to be. So, is it a mock? Is it a spy? Is it a partial mock? Are you just stubbing things in an empty class? There's nuance here that you kind of have to know. And if I've brought this up before, but like, you know, if you're super familiar with test double Martin Fowler here, you know, the godfather here, one of the godfathers of programming, you know, if you're familiar with the nuance of this, which I've talked about, I've linked this, I've spoken to this article on Laracons before, there are subtle differences between them. And, you know, again, kudos to Mockery kind of laying those out for you, you know, the difference between a mock and a spy. But when you're new to testing, or you just want to get in here and like start testing, like that can be a learning curve, right? How do you know which one it is? Mock versus spy versus, and you get that wrong and your test is not going to be doing what you think it's doing. You're going to run into a bunch of weird errors and all sorts of stuff. So hence the own name of my library, generically test double. underneath, when you say double for, it's just going to figure it out. You can explicitly say, give me a mock or be strict or whatever. But it's a bit more human, I would like to believe, right? That's the goal. The goal is to make it a bit more human and as such decrease that learning curve. Like drop the technicalities. Just give me a double. Give me a double. Let me start testing, right? Okay, moving on, we see on the left expects with. Over here, Mockery, kind of the conventional syntax is to use this should receive. We're going to get into the nuance of that in a second, but for the most part, exactly the same. A couple, I don't think these are prepositions. My English is failing me right now, but I'm failing English class right now. But these kind of what I'm going to call filler words, should and, I just don't have those in double. So expects with returns. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty straightforward, right? I'll get into kind of why I dropped those. I shared this last week in a tweet, but anyway. And then everything else is exactly the same. The act, we call the same darn thing, and then we assert the same thing underneath. So let's just go run both of these. Of course, they will pass. So we'll say vendor, bin, PHP unit, bam. So we got our double test. Oh, sorry, did I break something here? Oh, did I? Yes, sorry, I'm still in the middle of breaking stuff. Let's properly return book. We're gonna come back to breaking it to expose the messages here. Let's get back to a green state. There we go, back to a green state. Let's clear all this out for the less noise. So we run the test double, great. And then let me go back and take Mockery's version. We'll run this, great. One quick thing to note from this output, even though they're both passing, notice that you get two assertions with test double, where you only get one assertion with Mockery. This is a subtle difference internally, but we're gonna see where this difference starts to matter. Now, not a huge deal on test counts per se, or assertion counts. But the point is, underneath, again, double is doing things, dare I say, more of the right way, but they're just built differently, is the point. Again, double was rewritten from the ground up, whereas Mockery might have chosen these things for historical reasons of PHP units. I don't want to say they did something quote unquote wrong, but we'll notice that there's some, shortcuts, compatibility, whatever, trade-offs that Mockery has made over the years that, may not do exactly what you think when you start looking at it under a microscope, right? So again, we're looking at things under a microscope, so we're being, to that point, a little bit critical on purpose. All right, let's keep rocking here. I'm hearing some stuff in the chat. Hey, how's it going? All right, cool. Okay, so first things first, let's kind of just start breaking each one of these and see what ends up happening, right? So first thing I'm going to do is in Mockery, you can do bare mocks. You don't have to pass mock arguments. So let's run both of these and kind of see what happens. So we'll start with Mockery. My assumption is here it still passes, or you're going to get something unrelated to Mockery. Mockery allows you to do bare mocks. What you're going to get instead, though, is a PHP type error, okay? So you get a PHP type error because the constructor for our catalog service has to be a book repository, okay? So Mockery allows you to do bare mocks for like a shortcut. I do think there's some value in that, in fairness. But in modern PHP, again, that's becoming more and more typed. You're going to get an error here. So you really need to be mocking the real thing, the typed thing. This can get you into trouble with Mockery, some of those shortcuts. And again, we will pick on this a lot. Mockery 0, it's got no name, it's got no information, and in this case, of course, it doesn't, but it's just, you're getting a high-level PHP error. Compare that with double, you get an invalid argument exception. Test double for requires at least one target, okay? You have to say what your subject class or interface needs to be. It won't even carry on down to a type error. It just, again, that explicit, that truly technical underneath the covers, right? Going back to that assertion. So we got truly, it did two assertions, right? These little nuances are what start to separate it. Okay, so let's put that back, both sides. We should be back to passing. Okay, next thing, let's do something where we we got a typo here, right? We say fine, little typo. So both sides. All right, so let's do Mockery first. So Mockery says, received Mockery _0 JMac example book find, but no expectations were specified. Okay, so again, dense kind of name here. It called find, but no in your mind, if you made a typo, you think you wrote find. Okay, you made a typo. You fat fingered it. You're like, hey, okay, what's going on? I said find, right? In your mind, you think you said find. It was just a typo. Let's compare that to double. Can't configure find on double for book repository because it doesn't declare this method. Did you mean find? Oh, crap. I made a typo. All right. So carrying on, back to green. Okay, let's change this to an argument that doesn't do what we think it does. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll change this to 1, 2, 3, 4. Same thing, start with Mockery. So we see no matching handler found for Mockery 0, 1, 2, 3. Either the method was unexpected or its arguments match no expected argument list for this method. Okay, let's compare this to double. Double says, double book repository received a call to find 1, 2, 3 that doesn't match any of its configured expectations. Expects requires every call to match 1 exactly. The following similar call was made to find ID of 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1, 2, 3. I don't think you get much better than that. It maybe gets a little squirrely right there. I might go revisit that. But by comparison, okay, we're here to compare. No matching handler. What's a handler? Okay, they could have said expectation. No matching handler. Okay, again, dense name. We don't know what you're talking about. Find 1, 2, 3. And then it gives you a choice. It was either this or it was this. Go figure it out. Okay, hey, double book repository received 1, 2, 3. Doesn't match any of your configured expectations. The thing you just wrote, okay, doesn't say handler or some other term that we're not familiar with at all. It requires every call to match exactly. Okay, cool. So the following similar call was made to find. Boom, boom, boom. So again, instructive, feels much more DX like Laravel when you do something like assert database has or whatever, right? It kind of says, oh, we found a data with this record, but this is the one that's in the database. Check it out, right? It gives you context to like keep going instead of just this like no matching handler. So many questions when you get stuff like that. I will gripe on that. I've always felt that could have been so much better, and now it is with double. Okay, so we've kind of seen how both of these work. Let's just go back to that final one where we were starting with an error. Let's just change this to null. So, we got everything set up. We've seen where we set things up. Let's actually return kind of the incorrect thing, right? Or the unexpected thing. All right, let's clear all that out for noise. Let's start Mockery. Honestly, I don't know what this one does in either, so let's find out. Okay, so we get a huge exception here with a stack trace. So we see the exception there. No matching handler found, so we've seen this before. We do actually get a bit of output here, but I don't know what kind of value that has other than the exact book instance that's dumped from a PHP perspective. And then double, I don't know, I changed this last week. Let's see what double does. Okay, so double gives us, double book received a call to record view book that doesn't match any of its expectations. So similar to last time, it tells us, oh, hey, it got called with this, but it requires every, okay, I need to fix that last line. I don't like that. This feels bolted on. I'm gonna address that because this first part's wonderful. And this part where it says similar calls, null versus a book. Okay, cool. One other nuance I want to point out here, and it goes into the assertion. So again, we're seeing that these error messages are just miles ahead. Whether you're coding or your agent is coding, this is going to be far more helpful than this. Can AI figure that out? Sure. I guarantee you it burns a bit more tokens though. Another little nuance, and this goes back to those assertion counts. In Mockery, you get an exception that's thrown, okay? And if you've ever looked at a wall of errors when your test suite fails in CI, exceptions are at the very top and failures are at the very bottom. So if you get a mix of exceptions and failures in your test suite, you're scrolling around everywhere to find this crap. All right, and that's a Mockery thing. Double is a failure. It marks it as a failure. It shows up with the failures in order in which they failed, not this like bifurcated, sections, right? Where you got to just scroll around and go see what happened. So let's put these back. Book, get back to passing, get back to passing. Cool. So that's kind of the demo between Mockery and double. Again, tried to keep it as classy as possible, but those error messages have always bothered me. And honestly, they were the largest motivator to create double. And again, it would just be unauthentic of me not to, relay my gripes with that. So, yeah, that's Mockery versus double, just kind of in that regard. Let me know in the chat what you think. Again, super simple example here. Mockery has its place, but I feel like, it's one of those things where, again, it's been around for a decade. It's definitely the de facto. I respect it in that sense, but it has just enough rough edges that in the modern programming age of AI, where, you're able to just generate code rapidly. Like, I've always wanted to take a crack at fixing it, and I was going to do that through the formal PR process, but Mockery itself is very, very dense to learn. And again, it would have taken dozens. I griped about several things here. And that's not even all of them. Let me demonstrate one more Mockery thing that I think a lot of people fall victim of and might not even be aware of it. There's a couple, but here's one more. Let's get into the actual implementation. Somewhere in here, I think. Let's go down here. Let me comment out the actual call to record view. So again, if we go back to here, we're in a passing state for both, okay? Passing state for both, but I went in and I've actually changed, now I've changed the implementation. I've changed the actual app code. I've commented out this call to record view, okay? Done no changes to the test. I'm not trying to tweak the test to make things break anymore. I've only commented out a real world line of code. Let's see what happens in the test. I'm gonna run double. As expected, double book repository expected record view to be called exactly one time, but it was never called. Okay, so again, only change the implementation code, not the test. Therefore, I would expect the test to fail, and it does. Mockery passes. Now, if you've used and lived with the pain of Mockery enough, you know why this fails. It's because should receive, going back to these filler words, it doesn't mean it has to. Again, one of the reasons I chose these one-word specific, API method names in double is that explicit, no room for ambiguity. Should. What does should mean? Does it mean does? Does it mean can? Does it mean may or may not? I don't know, I speak English and I don't even, should means, may, right? And that means it also could not. You should do that, but you don't have to do that, right? And it really makes you think. It's subjective, right? The problem is should receive is exactly that. It means technically 0 or more times. So you have to, if you're using should receive, you have to quantify this with once. If you don't, your test is going to pass because, hey, it should receive it, but it doesn't have to. But if I say once, then it's got to receive it once. And now we will get an exception message. Again, still not a very good one, but we will get a message that says, hey, Mockery should be called exactly 1 times, but called 0 times. So again, ours is a little more human. It's got proper pluralization. Again, just those little touches, but really probably the biggest misconception, misuse of Mockery is just to straight use should receive and not give it any kind of quantifier. I guarantee you if you're using Mockery and you're using should receive, You have tests that are weaker than you think. They are not actually asserting on what you think. Now, in fairness, Mockery does, in the last couple years, they've added an expects, which if we dig down into it, is really a shorthand for should receive once. But again, none of these aliases, none of these extra names, just like give me one unified API, right? Like I can write it this way and it will still fail just as we saw before, which now looks almost identical, if not identical, to double. But again, it's just one of those things in there that I guarantee you a lot of people have fallen victim to that. There's also like should not have been called. Again, there's other nuances in the language. That's probably the number one. But there's a couple more misconceptions like that in Mockery. So keep those in mind. Okay, Mockery gripe thus ended. Let me get off that train before I get too far down that road. Okay, cool. Let's see. Got a couple things in the chat. With double, it just makes understanding where the problem is so much more readable. Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. Like, I appreciate that we're entering an AI world and the argument, oh, AI knows what to do. But again, you're probably, if nothing else, honestly, you're probably burning more tokens for it to parse that error message and decipher it. And, you know, after a while, of course, it's going to add some stuff to its memory. But if you do have to get into failing tests as a human, like in CI, you're going to look at CI before AI does, like, they're just better. Sorry. They're objectively better messages to guide humans and AI to the right answer faster. Cool. Anyway, yeah, Jeff, thanks. Glad you're trying it out in your projects. There's really no reason not to. And to the next point of the stream, let's jump into some other things here real quick. Let's jump into converting a project from Mockery to double. As I noted, I've been reaching out to people in the PHP community. I kind of sampled some people at LayerCon. Of course, I've asked, you know, my own developer buddies to try out double. But I've been talking with Nuno and Frake specifically to kind of like get them to try it out, to get their, again, honest feedback on how they feel about it. And Frake has been asking me to swap, or I've asked Frake if I can swap a few of his packages to use double instead of Mockery. So let's see here. We've got, he sent me a list of a couple to try. Okay, Laravel response cache. Let's go take a look. We've got Laravel response cache spaCy. All right, there it is. Let's get, is it GitHub? No. Well, there'll be a link to GitHub. So let's use the converter to check this out. How do we get that repository? There we go. Let's use the shift double converter on this to get it to go. Oh man, do I have to, am I not signed in? Crap. Sorry everybody, full screen me for a second. Full screen me. Let's close down PHP Storm. All right, it's full screen me time. There is like a fruit fly in here. Get the fuck out of here. All right, full screen me. Sorry. Sign in. How am I not signed in? Again, I don't use this iMac very often. Crap, what is my GitHub login these days? Oh, nailed it. Okay. Hold on. 2FA. Let's do Authenticator app? Yeah? Okay. GitHub. Normally it does GitHub mobile. Fruitfly, you were gonna die. Okay, I think we're in. Nothing up that can leak. All right, back to me, back to shared screen. Okay, thanks everybody for bearing with me on that. Okay, we've got Laravel response cache. I'm just gonna make a fork here. Let's create a fork. Let's make sure we understand like their commit policy. Do they have any other branches? Oh, they do have some other branches. Do they have any commit or contribution? Here we go. Let's just make sure. Welcome credited, etiquette, procedure. I'm just trying to figure out where, like, does it say anything about a branch? Okay. Doesn't say anything about which branch to contribute against. Wait, spaCy.github. Oh, the contribution guides on GitHub. Okay. Let's look at the branches and see which one's got the most. Oh, okay. Everything's stale. They're just not gone. Okay, so main is correct is the point here. Okay, let's go. I think I got it. Let's go back to mine. Few existing forks. Why did you not just go back to my fork? GitHub. I gotta tell you. Kind of to this whole like sleeping. What do you mean? Oh, I'm on fork. Okay. We're getting there. All right. You know, kind of the point on like sleeping when you get ahead and then you get lazy because you're the leader, right? GitHub. I gotta tell you, I think they lost their mojo, man. I think they could be miles ahead with AI and everything. I mean, they were crushing it with Copilot for their like 3-4 years ago, and I don't know, they just got stuck. But even like the UI and the interface here, like I know they're bringing some things up now, but now it's reactive instead of proactive, and that's not a place you want to be. Anyway, let's copy this down. CD period. Yeah, git clone that. All right, and then let's cd into Laravel response cache. Okay. Oh crap. I was going to use Claude, but I think I hit my session limit this morning. We'll do this the old-fashioned way. Okay, so let's copy this. We'll go to laravelshift.com. We're going to run a shift. We're going to go down to the PHP section. Again, this is a broader PHP thing. The Mockery is a broad PHP library. It's not Laravel specific. So is double. All right, let's drop that in there. Laravel response cache. We'll hit it against the main branch. Ready to run. It's free, so let's just hit run. That's queuing up. I'm here in the chat. Let's see what's going on in the chat while that's running. Yeah. Microsoft lost the AI race for sure. Yeah, it's just unfortunate because like Copilot, I mean, everyone was crushing it with Copilot there for like, 2.5 years ago, I would say, just roughly. And I think they lost it. Like they could have had, I just feel like automated issues to PRs. I mean, they were doing stuff with Dependabot. I mean, from a Shift perspective, I was scared what they were doing with Dependabot. I mean, I think they slept on that too. There's so much automation that GitHub could be doing. It blows my mind. If I were in an employee of GitHub, like it was just like, I would have just been like, we need to be crushing this and this and this and automate this. And I mean, there should have been automated PRs of just the second an issue came up, there should have been automated PRs. There should have been rule sets. I mean, Copilot wasn't awesome from like a code generation perspective, but there was enough there that I think they could have added some heuristic automation to pair up issues and GitHub Actions and pull requests, especially for their open source projects. Absolutely. Anyway, the wheels are turning. Mark, hey, how's it going? Oh, good. I'm glad you like the shirts, dude. Sorry I missed those at LayerCon. That was a total oversight on my part. But hey, you got 2 of them now instead of just 1. Okay, so this is a conversion from Mockery to double. Again, Frake was saying, they don't use Mockery that much, kind of in the chat I was looking at on my phone. But he said, hey, if you want to take a look at these, try it out. So at a high level, it sees that we add the dependencies, we convert to double creation, we convert to expectations. So let's follow the rules here since I don't have AI to back me up. Git fetch, git check out that. Let's first run, as it says, composer update. While it's doing that in the background, let's take a more unified look at each one of these atomic commits. I like to look at the atomic commits instead of the full change set. That's just, a PR, shift PR thing. So we see here that it drops in tilde 06, again, because we're still V0, so I like to use tildes instead. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck on one of those minor versions. Okay, so let's see what it changed here. It dropped in the import. It changed mock to double. again, it does things in iterative passes. So while these are technically atomic commits, they are not the full change set of work. So again, with just 4 files, you could view the whole thing. But from an atomic what got changed perspective, we first went in and found anywhere things were being mocked, and we've made them doubles. Okay, so just a couple. We do have a few that are pass through. That's interesting. Okay, so instead of the make partial, we've got pass through. So that'll be cool to see how that gets handled. And then finally, we go through, and again, those places where it should receive once, we pack it down to expects instead of and return. We got and returns, returns true. So again, now we pack down the expectations. So really, do they have CI? Okay, it didn't remove the Mockery dependency. We'll have to check on that. Let's see if they have CI. If they have CI, then I'm just gonna composer bump and push it up. I'm noticing that some of their stuff doesn't have CI though. Oh no, they got CI. Okay. Oh, it's not running because I'm on a fork. I would have to open it. I would have to open the PR. Okay, so let's do this. Vendor bin PHP unit, I assume. Negative. Oh yeah, pest. Well, that's a crappy message. Vendor bin pest. Okay, we got a couple of failures I noticed. So 2 failures. Call to undefined mockery expects. Return. Mockery expectation returns. Oh, they've got like a nested. Is that pest syntax, this mock? Is that what pest allows? I thought pest just pointed you to mockery. I didn't think it had its own internal helpers. Let's go find out. Gonna have to bring up PHP Storm. So, in fairness, out of 84 tests, only 2 failures, not too bad. And we see here that this is definitely an oversight on Shift's part because, as I fully admitted, I didn't even realize Pest had its own this mock. That's interesting to me. Pest PHP. If we go look at mocking, oh my gosh, they got to get rid of that drop-in. I know it only lasts like a split second, but wrong thing. I'm so used to clicking the docs button on. I'm so used to clicking the docs button in Laravel right up there, muscle memory. Okay. Mockery, mocking. Oh my gosh, where are you? I know you're called mocking. Mocking. Is it not there? Am I crazy? Mocking. How did mocking not turn up in the search? Okay, whatever. Yeah, see, they use mockery mock. What is this mock? Is that custom? Feel free to let me know in the chat that I'm an idiot, but I don't think they have their own. I feel like maybe this is a internal bit here. Okay, what is this called? GWD. All right, project root, create. So many clicks. Okay, which one failed? Response clear test. Let's go take a look at this. Let's see if we can backtrace where this mock comes from. I mean, I'm assuming it's a pest thing, but it is not documented. Oops. All right, so we got event fake. We got this mock. Where? Let's let PHP Storm catch up. It's going to be very easy to change this, but I'm just not familiar with that helper. Do they have something here? Let's see. Yeah, they just have pests, so it's not like there's any kind of special package added on. I'm hearing some chat, so maybe somebody knows. Yes. No, I sent Nuno a little bit of feedback here and there. Nuno's like so active and like prolific that I think stuff doesn't always, there's only so many hours in the day is really the ultimate point there. Also, I think, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's check the top level pest file. Create request, no? I think this mock is something inside of pest. I just need to find it. It's not gonna let me click through, but it's still analyzing the, the bit there. I do, also too, what I was gonna say on Nuno, I also think he's maybe just a slight bit mad at me that I made Tia for PHP unit. I think he would have rather seen me just use pest, which is totally fair. But as you can see, I've got a lot of old legacy projects, and I'm still using PHP unit, so I wanted the benefit of it. I think it's a great idea, and it's not like test impact analysis is like proprietary to pest. I mean, it's been around for decades. So anyway, I do feel like this mock is clearly built into pest, so I'm gonna have to update the shift to handle that. But let's see where it comes from. Oh, it actually comes from Laravel. I forgot about that. It does indeed. It does indeed. Interacts with container. Yes, you can swap and mock directly. This is not a pest thing. That's why, okay, see, I was on this tangent with undocumented behavior of pest, but I'm glad we checked because I wasn't fully, I was dubious. I was like 10% like, does it exist in pest? But 90% like, I don't remember seeing that. So, I don't remember seeing that. Okay, so basically, Shift will need to unwrap this. It's a really good example, but we can go ahead and unwrap this ourselves. It actually already changed this, I can tell. So let's just pop this out and let's var this off. So we'll say double 4. We'll kill that part of the chain. Let's import this and let's call that a mock. Okay, and then let's run the test again and see if we fixed it. Hey, down to one failure. Okay, same issue. So again, I will update the test double shift to account for this, and I think this test would have passed 100% out of the box after I ran Composer update. But let's go ahead and finish this up. So let's do the same drill here. Oh, it's in the same file even, so there it is. So let's just borrow this. Oops, borrow this again. It looks exactly the same. We'll just double check that. So yes, double the repository cache and make sure to return, oh, false in this case. Okay, good, false A. And let's break up that expectation line. That was my fault. All right. Should be all passing. Oh, still one failure. What did I forget? Oh, expects result to be false. Did I do something wrong there? So test double 4 mock clear returns false. Result app response cache clear. Interesting. What are we not doubling correctly here? What are we not doubling correctly? Is that the right one? Will fire. It will fire. Appropriate events clearing the cache. Clear the cache fails. Okay. Expects result to be false. I'm curious. What is result? I should have limited to just that test. Results true. Okay. So it is definitely not result equals this tagged cache tagged. What is this? Oh, response. Okay. No. The trait response cache. So is this not the right thing? Does this have a clear on it? It does. We should be overriding it. I'm trying to figure out if this is just a bad setup or is this a double issue. I'm assuming this is contained somewhere in the service provider. So when response cache repository needs that, give it a cache store. So what we need to do is inside of clear, I kind of want to dump this. And I want to do so, I want to do so for this test. Vendor bin pest that. Okay, we got a spaCy response cache. Response cache, response cache. All of them are response cache. I would have expected this. You know what I think this is? Because of its registry in the container with the needs and the gives, this isn't simple. That's why they were using this mock before. This isn't simply just swapping it out on like a native PHP construction. It's actually about swapping it out in the container too. We have to do that part by hand, I think. I lost that when I converted it. So the conversion isn't just make it a double, it's make it a double and then swap it in the container, because this mock was doing two things at once. It was making it a mock or a double, and then it was swapping it in the container. I've lost the swap in container part. So we now have to say this swap with the mock. This is my belief. Yes, do that too. Whoop. Where'd we go? Yes, do that too. That was a weird bit. Okay, and then let's get rid of that dump. Let's see what happens now. They both pass. Yes. Everything passes. Okay, cool. So in the end, what we saw here was that the double converter simply just didn't handle when you were using a Laravel helper method to mock something and swap it in the container. I'm going to update it to do exactly the manual bit we did here because it is a two-step process. It's converting it to a double, unwrapping it, but then also still making sure you swap in the container. If someday Laravel did use double, someday, then this double might exist instead of this mock, and all of that could have just been done. What are we saying in the chat? Is that something double could handle internally magic for the developer? No, because as we just ran into myself, it was doing two things. It was swapping it. So you have to realize that this mock, as a Laravel helper, is creating you a Mockery mock and swapping it all in one. That's why it does its little closure-based syntax, which I would argue is a bit dense. This is the way you would have to do it in double for now, right? Yeah, exactly. If in Laravel 14, big if, I mean, in fairness, pest isn't even in Laravel these days, and it's definitely within the community, I think, the more popular testing framework than PHP. But the point is, yeah, if double were in V14, then there might be something that existed that was like, you know, this double, right? As we just saw. So anyway, the point is, I really think this, again, double's all about being explicit. So like, I really think this, in my opinion, is cleaner than what we just saw. We'll go ahead and do like a git add -p so we can see the original. So we brought in double. This is just a bit dense. Like, I don't know, that's a bit dense. There's a lot of side effects that are happening here. The side effects of being internal to the closure, but then also the side effects of it is swapping in the container. I don't know. I think what we've changed here, what we've added is in my opinion way easier to unpack than that. It's like, hey, make me a double and then swap it. I don't know. I'd rather see those explicit steps. Because as we saw, I went and rewrote it and I didn't even know. And I've been writing tests and Laravel and Mockery for, over a decade. And it caught me up there for a second. Okay, fixed those. So let's do GST. Let's do git commit -m. And we'll say unwrap mock helper git push. Let's go ahead and redirect this PR to be at the actual fork, and we'll see how Mockery. We'll see how Spassy likes it. Okay, so converted construct. I think all that is fine. So I'm just going to clean up these messages here. There's still some mocks. Yeah. That's fine. We're not going to get rid of a Mockery. And then it seems like the make partial behavior is okay. That might be able to be used, but that's okay. And then let's see if we can edit. Can you edit where this goes? I thought you could edit the source, but you might not be able to edit it cross repo. All right. They don't need. Let's just do this. Let's do a git push origin head. Or well, wait. Yes. Git push origin head. And then let's name this Mockery to double. So we're going to push the same branch up. And then I now get the ability to make a new PR. And we'll redirect that at Spassy cache. So we'll say convert Mockery to double. It should have all the same things so they can follow along. But yeah, I'll write this up, submit it, and it's up to Frake if he wants it or not. But like I said, the whole name of the game from now on, as to wrap up with double here, is adoption. So if it can get some more adoption, the more and more adoption it can get, the more and more chance I have to say, hey, look, this is truly better. People are liking it. Like, let's get this into some PHP packages as a modern alternative, right? So that's kind of the name of the game for the next few weeks, months, whatever. So again, if you try out Mockery, please, if you ditch Mockery and try out double, let me know along the way if you see any of your own gripes, because I don't want there to be any gripes. I want it to have the best developer experience for creating test doubles, mocking in PHP. So thanks everybody for joining live. Fresh content next week. See you then.